All right, looks like we got everybody who is going to be here today. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? So today we're reviewing Delivery Console. And if you're here due to your onboarding process, today's session will allow you to check mark that as completed from your checklist. If you're not, and this is your first time being exposed to Delivery Console, please remember to reach out to our tech support team to get your welcome packet that will explain everything that you need to get started with Delcon. Let's go ahead and go through our presentation today to review the material. So first up, we got an overview about Delivery Console. So what is exactly Delivery Console? Well, Delivery Console is a web portal that functions as a cleaner's one-stop location for everything related to route operations. You can create, manage, and edit service plans. And just a little parenthesis here, service plans is just the name of routes in the context of Delivery Console, so everybody's on the same page. You can manipulate service zones, add locker banks, and much more. Delivery Console requires users to migrate their routes from Spot and into Delivery Console. That means that if you already have a route operation today, several routes, several stops already in these, you can definitely use them in Delivery Console, but there's going to be a migration process that is not reversible. What that means is that once you move these routes into Delivery Console and they become service plans, you cannot bring these routes back into Spot the same way you brought them in. If you wanted to get them back into Spot, you would have to create them again manually from scratch and add the stops one by one to it. So just keep that in mind when it comes to migrating routes. So if you ever want to use some of your routes that you have in Spot today on Delivery Console, it is definitely doable, but just keep that in mind that it's a one-way street. One of the functionalities of Delivery Console are locker stops. And Delivery Console is free with any RouteTrack mobile subscription, meaning that if you are using RouteTrack today, you automatically get access to Delivery Console so you can take advantage of that opportunity. Some of the features that we're going to be reviewing for Delivery Console today are listed right now on the screen. So first of all, Delivery Console is API based, meaning that any changes that occur on that platform are immediately applied to the Spot database. All right, so there's no approval process that needs to occur. There's no sort of notification acknowledgement that needs to happen on the Spot side of things by a clerk or anybody else. It is an instantaneous live change on the database. The UI that we've developed is fluid, responsive, and easy to understand. We understand that one of the core things that we want to proceed moving forward with any of the new features and new platforms that we develop is that they must be easy to understand and navigate. So we have kept that in the foreground of our minds with the development of Delivery Console. The route operations that Delivery Console possess will be very familiar for any of you that already are running routes today. We got route plan creation. This is just your manifest creation tool. And route plan is the name that we give manifest and Delivery Console. So just keep that in mind. There are a few terms that we have changed the naming convention for when it comes to Delivery Console, but the core aspect of the feature is still the same. Service plan creation and management, meaning that service plans that on Delivery Console are created and maintained on Delivery Console. So you will not use Spot any longer for managing, creating, or adding stops to your routes. Everything gets handled via Delivery Console. Some of the stops that we support today are customer, multi-stop customer, and locker stops. These are the three that we have today in our public version of Delivery Console. The first two are obviously already things that you can do in Spot today with the customer and multi-customer stops. And then the third one is one of the new additions, locker stops. And this is one of the greatest attractions to Delivery Console because it allows you to create and maintain a locker operation that is separate from the store location. Route zones, we have definitely improved on the way in which zones are now created and maintained on Delivery Console versus how they are in Spot proper today. If any of you have played with the zone creation or editing tool in Spot proper, you'll know that it's a little bit of a cumbersome procedure to utilize. Delivery Console improves on that and makes it a much more needed breath of fresh air when it comes to service delivery zones. And then the last thing that we already talked about a little bit is locker banks. Now, we do have a separate webinar for locker banks, so we're not going to be covering much of the locker bank stuff today. And we do have a recorded version of the lockers webinar. If you want to check that out, instead of coming to the live one next week, you can do so today in our YouTube page, Spot POS Media. Next up, we got real-time updates for all operating routes via live view. So this is one of the big things as well. One of the concepts that we wanted to definitely stress when it comes to Delivery Console is that its inception, the whole goal of Delivery Console is to bring the control of the routes back to you as the owner, as the route manager, as whoever you are, that you need to have all the information that is necessary to maintain efficiency and accountability on the route operation. Previously, I mean, if any of you started in Spot with the routes when it was just a paper manifest, there was no route track, you must understand that there were a lot of gaps in that process that could potentially bring down efficiency, right? We hope that the driver is out there performing their operations as optimal as possible, but there's no way to really account for that. Delivery Console is that step in the direction of making sure that everything that happens on the route you are aware of. And the last thing is seamless interaction with RouteTrack Mobile. And this is a no-brainer. You do need RouteTrack if you want to use Delivery Console. Is the reason why it's bundled with it and it's free with RouteTrack. So the transition of using Delivery Console with RouteTrack is seamless. It doesn't really change anything if you've already been using RouteTrack with Spot routes today. The process on that regard is still going to be, all you need to do is upload your manifest into RouteTrack Mobile once it's been generated from Delivery Console. The 5 modules we have on Delivery Console are Route Plan, and again, this is the manifest creation tool. One of the key things that we've added and expanded upon the manifest creation tool is that now you can create one single manifest for as many of your service plans as you want, meaning that if you have 3 service plans and they have about, let's say 50 stops each, you can create one single manifest that will include all those 150 stops in a single manifest for one single driver if you so desired. Previously on Spot routes, if you wanted to service 3 routes on the same day with the same driver, you would have to create 3 separate manifests and then park them and load them independently in RouteTrack as you go through the route. So we made that process much easier today. Number 2 is Live View, and this is where you'll be reviewing the real-time route infographics. This is what provides you with the driver location data and the percentages of how well they're doing in terms of late percentages, completion rates, and much more. We have recently also partnered with Zuby, which is an infographics third-party service. And the best way I can compare that to is if you've ever used one of those car insurance apps that tracks your speed violations, your hard brakes, etc. That is what Zuby does as well. So we have brought that operational addition into Delivery Console Live View section so that you can view driver habits and also gain an even further level of accountability on that side of things. Number 3 is Stop Setup, and as the name implies, this is a tool that you'll be using to add new stops to your service plans. And one of the key things to remember here is that the Stop Setup tool interacts directly with your Spot database, meaning that if you type into the search bar in the Stop Setup, Mr. John Doe, that will look for a customer account in Spot that has that name, so that you can then use that address that the account possesses to be able to place them in the appropriate service plan based on the route delivery zones. You can add the 3 types of stops from here as well. The customer, multi-customer, and locker stops are all available from the Stop Setup tool. Number 4 is service plans, and this is the meat of the product, right? This is where you'll be adding your service plans, managing, editing, assigning service windows, assigning your service zones, and you can toggle between 2 views on this section. When you click on one of your service plans, you can toggle between a stop view, which is just a list of stops as they look like in Spot today. And the second is a map view that will present you with a preview of the zone that's attached to the service plan, as well as all the stops as pins on the map. And lastly, number 5 is zones. This is where we come in to draw and modify your zones that you'll be adding to your service plans at a later point. You can create subtractive and additive zones, and we'll explore what those mean further into the presentation. And another great thing is you can also add coloring to your zones, which obviously will assist in making sure that everything is very easy to understand in terms of reviewing what zones you have added and which ones belong to which service plan. In order to log into Delivery Console, the process is very simple. If you already have RouteTrack today, all you have to do is navigate to delcon.mydrycleaner.com. This is the screen that will be presented to you when you arrive at this page. You need 3 pieces of information: an account key, which is the same RouteTrack key that you use to log into RouteTrack. If you have misplaced that key, you can just request technical support to send you an email with that key. And then the username and password are tied to your user in Spot, and set up users, groups, and rights. There's a login name and a password section on each individual user in there for an employee. So those two, the login name and the password is what you'll enter here in Delivery Console to log in. Once we're logged into Delivery Console, the very first thing that we'll see is the route plan screen. And the route plan screen, like we said before, is just the manifest creation tool that already exists in Spot today with a few key differences and additions and upgrades that we've implemented. The first one is the select date. So this one still looks exactly the same as it does in Spot. You're just saying for what day are we running the manifest for. This hasn't changed really, but if you notice the very second setting right after that, the number of vehicles, now that is something that we've added recently. You may be wondering what exactly does that do? Well, the number of vehicles allows you to create one single manifest from Delivery Console that can be split into however many drivers you want. So if you wanted to create one single large manifest that includes all the routes for today, let's say 500 stops total, you can then select how many vehicles you want to split that in between, and it will go ahead and split that manifest as optimizable as possible for 3 different drivers, and then each one can load that into their route track devices and go. One very important caveat here is that the number of vehicles option is only available if you're using Route for Me for optimization. So today we use Telogis as our optimization component by default, and that is what Spot and Delivery Console use out of the box with optimization. However, Route for Me is a more powerful optimization component that we partnered with, and it not only includes the number of vehicles feature, but several others that we'll explore as we go through our presentation. But Route for Me is an add-on to Delivery Console only. That means that you cannot use Route for Me with Spot proper. It's only a Delivery Console add-on, and it does incur an additional fee. If you're interested, our sales team can provide you with more information. But number 2, select number of vehicles, is the first key feature that is available to you with Route for Me. Now, if you don't have Route for Me, then the number 2 section here will not appear. Instead, we will go right through to select optimize settings, which is our number 3 on this screenshot. So there's 3 settings displayed here. However, Delivery Console out of the box with Telogis for optimization will only present you with the first 2, no optimization and route only. And if you don't know what optimization is, it is just a component that goes in and logically adds stop by stop and reorders if any need to be reordered in the most efficient manner possible for the driver to get from stop A to stop B as efficiently as possible based on distance. Route for Me gives you an additional option, route and time. And what that is used for is that if you wanted to create service windows that are dependent on time, let's say if you wanted to have all your pickups for today to be done in a morning slot from 8 a.m. to noon, and then all your deliveries from noon to 5 p.m., then you can do that by selecting route and time for your optimization settings when you're running your manifest. Again, this route and time option is only available with Route for Me. The next section is fairly easy to understand. We're just selecting what store we're going in to validate which service plans we want to grab. The next section is the start and the stop addresses on our route for today. And this is usually by default set to the store address where the service plans exist. Number 5 is select driver. Who is going to be the driver operating the route today? And the last 2 sections are prepay, which is the same function as it appears in Spot today. Do you want to, as simply as, do we want to prepay our orders as they're being loaded onto the manifest or not? And then the last thing is print manifest, which is if you want to print a hard copy of the manifest that we're creating for from Delivery Console, you can do that at this point, and it will download to your computer in a PDF format. One important key to also remember here is that, and this is something I get asked fairly often, there's no way to reprint a manifest from Delivery Console proper today. However, there is a way to do it by going into Spot, into Menu, Delivery, Route Track. This will present you with a list of all the manifests that have been loaded into a Route Track device, and you can toggle between only active manifests or all, and the all option will show you past manifest. So you can get around this limitation that way in case that's what you're interested in. Moving on to the second section of route plan, this is when we have already selected the previous settings on the slide that came before it. Basically, at this point, we have selected the date for today, we have a driver, and what it's showing us now is of all of our service plans that we created on this store, which ones have valid pickup and delivery dates for today. It looks like we have 4, as you can see on this screenshot. Here I am showcasing to you the ability to select more than one service plan to create a route plan. In this situation, I've selected 2, the 2 at the top. Now there's also a few things here that I want to definitely elaborate on that are super useful. The first one, this is the list of icons that make it very easy to understand what kind of stops we have in each one of these service plans. The first icon is the normal customer stop. The second icon is the multi-stop customers. The third icon are locker stops, and the fourth one are just the zones. So basically, just with a quick glance, we are able to understand how many customer stops we have, how many multi-customers, how many locker, and how many zones each one of our service plans have. Once we have selected the service plans we want to run the route plan for, all we do is hit create plan, and that will populate a route plan summary. The route plan summary is a step before the actual creation of the manifest, and it's kind of a snapshot for you to see what the workload will look like today for this particular manifest that you will be creating. It's great to also see if all the orders that should be ready are ready to go, because it gives you a counter however many ready orders will be going onto this manifest. So if that doesn't look right, you can go back and check and make sure that all your orders are ranked correctly. As you can see here, the number of stops that the plan summary is giving us is higher than the customers. And that is because the total of stops is counting the start and the stop address that we saw before. So the store location address being counted as the start and stop gets added to our stops total. So that's the reason why there's 2 more than customers. And then if there's any locker orders or customers in this service plan manifest route plan we're creating, then they will appear here as well. And another great addition is the stops not geocoded. So if you've been using Telogis for spot map or for optimization, you'll know that sometimes addresses just do not validate, right? And it tells you so when you try to create a manifest, and to fix it, you got to go back into the account in spot, fix the address, go back out, go back to the route, and try to run that manifest again. With route plan, you don't have to do all that going around. Instead, if there is a stop that was not geocoded, you can just click on this button and it will present you with the addresses and customers that did not geolocate, and you can make the corrections right there on the spot and then continue forward with the route plan creation. Before we get into live view, once you, in the previous screenshot, if we were to click on that create button, it would just create the manifest, and after that point, you would just load it into RouteTrack and you're good to go. So for live view is a comprehensive presentation of completion and late percentages based on the active route operation. The ability to track driver truck location is also present within this view. Stops, customers, and back summary can be observed within the session boxes on the left panel, and you can view independent route sessions or all sessions together. So what this means really is that live view gives you an in-depth comprehensive look at what your routes look like right now. Each of the sessions that you'll be viewing, and this is an example of one, even though in this one we have all sessions selected, but basically each session that you'll be able to view is dependent on if there is a manifest that has been loaded into RouteTrack, and it will present you with these options, with these infometrics here. We have the total number of stops. So right now we have all sessions selected, which is giving us a total of all the routes that we have currently running, and it combines them and tallies them up. Like we can see here, we have 14 out of 114 stops total. 0 did not deliver. 14 out of 118 customer stops. 2 bags have been picked up, and our percentage of completion is 19% out of 100, and our late percentage is 61% out of 100. And you can view either all sessions together like this, or you can view each individual session for each one of the routes that are operating out there right now. Something else that you can also do with your live view is that you can see a map view of each of the routes that you have selected, and you can see what the truck location is in relation to the map area where the stops are. So basically this is our driver right now, and these are the stops that are nearby him. If we were to click on any of the customer stops as displayed as pins here, we will get this additional information or stop details. Basically gives you the name of the customer, contact information, address, which orders we have delivered, if we picked up any bags, time since the previous stop before we got here, satellite view and coordinates for the location, and the last customer that we visited as well. So it gives you great in-depth information about these customer stops, and this is all dependent on RouteTrack scans. So basically, these orders are presented here because the driver scanned them with RouteTrack at the time of delivery. So stop setup is the next feature, and this one is way easy to understand. Basically, it's just a tool that you can utilize to add new stops to your service plans. You can toggle between customer, multi-stop customer, or locker stops. And what it will do is that if you select customer and you enter the name here, it's going to search for a customer with that name and a valid account in Spot and pull that up. And here in this address box, it will display the customer's address, and based on that address is going to geolocate and find which service plan better suits that customer based on their address and the zones that we have attached to our service plan. One key thing to remember is that just like in Spot proper, service plans are store bound, meaning that the customer you're trying to look up to add to the service plan must also be, their home location must also be set to the store where the service plan exists. So if there's service plans on store 5, then the customer that you're adding to it must also exist and have their home location be store 5, which is a very easy change. If they're not, if you don't know how to do that, it's you just go into customer view, and in the details tab, there's a home location at the bottom left. But regardless, once we have pulled up a customer, it's going to validate their address and provide us with a list of service plans that are able to provide service to this customer based on the geolocated address field. Now, in this case, I don't have geolocation turned on for my tests here, so it's presenting us just with all the service plans that we have today. And obviously, because there's no such a thing as 345 test lane, but if it were, then in the most likely scenarios that will only give us one option for a service plan, because most of the time you're not overlapping zones. We don't actually recommend you do that. So once you have selected which service plan, in most cases just the one, then you just hit select, and that will give you a preview of where the stop will fall within the zone, and then you can go ahead and select, and that will add the customer stop to the service plan. So it's fairly easy to operate when it comes to adding new stops to your service plans. Coming right up is the multi-customer stop setup, and this one, it has changed a little bit from how they're handled in Spot today. So basically, from before, if you ever had to implement multi-customer stops to your business via Spot routes, you'll know that you need to have a placeholder stop basically, and then every single stop below it, they're linked together in the stop settings. For Delivery Console, we have instead implemented a feature in which you're just describing the name of the building or the place where we're going, and within that stop that you just created, this actually does not create an account in Spot at all. It's just a name that you're giving the physical location where you're going. Inside of here, there's a customers tab where you actually will be pulling the customer records from Spot and adding them as multi-customer stops that live within this test building, for example. The instructions field is usually here for you to specify and make the life of your driver easy by just simply explaining where they need to go to get to these customers. So if it's an apartment building, the apartment number is a great way to do that. If it's an office building, obviously we can do something like floor 1, floor 2, and whatever have you. Now, this is the service plan screen, and this is what it will look like when you actually have some service plans added to it. Basically, to add a new zone, all you have to do is select the service plan, you click on available zones here, this yellow button, and that will present you with a list of zones that you have created. Obviously, this is dependent if you have created any zones already, but if you have, then all you will need to do is just toggle the zones that you want to attach to the service plan. Here's an example of a zone that we have attached to our service plan here. And as you can see, it will also give us the same kind of icons that we see in Route Plan that will give us at a glance very useful information about what's the workload for each one of these service plans. So to add a new service plan, it's as easy as clicking the plus button on the top right of the service plan screen that we saw before. And it basically gives you this little screen here where you can fill out all the details about the service plan. And because we already know that service plans are simply just the name of routes now, we understand that the basic information that they require is already familiar to us. The service plan name, as the name implies, is just going to be the name of the route. One thing that it's useful for you guys to remember is that us here at Spot, as a best business practice, we recommend that you add SP in the beginning of any service plan you add, because that will tell us that this is a service plan. The reason being that even though you will not be able to view the routes or service plans, I suppose in this case, anymore within Spot itself in the delivery tab, you'll still be able to view any service plans you add via Delivery Console in the program configuration store section for the store that you have added the service plans to. So basically they'll still appear in the config, and so it will make it 10 times easier, not only for you, but for us in tech support to be able to understand and identify which routes are just Spot routes and which ones are service plans. So having that in the beginning, SP, makes things 10 times easier. The description box does not need to be filled out. That's optional there for you. Driver name, who's going to be the main driver of the route, simple to understand. Price table, are we going to be using a specific price list for these route customers? Tax entity, alteration tax entity, promise date schedule, holiday schedule. I'm pretty sure everybody here understands what all those assignments would do. I can elaborate on the last 4 here. So average stop time in minutes, this is just the amount of minutes that you have decided it should take a driver to complete one stop. And then the one to the right hand side is average stop times per customer in minutes, which is basically the same, except this is for multi-stop customers. So how much in addition to the stop time, the average stop time, should it take the driver to complete one multi-customer stop after the other? And then the last 2, route track order scan, basically is it going to present you with the orders that are due for this stop that we have entered via route track in order or based on the scans. And then the other one is default scan at delivery. And all this does is that are we allowing the drivers to either scan the invoices they're delivering, or is it optional, right? Can they just skip through it and not scan anything? We can make that decision here. There's several settings there. There's required, there's optional, there's a couple of ones. So it's basically tailored to your operation. If you want to enforce scanning, just be aware that the drivers can still override it, except the only thing there is that if they do override it when it's forced, they'll have to put in an explanation in a little pop-up box. And that you can view via the menu, delivery, route track, and Spot. And then the last 2 are exclude from route selection and require image at delivery. Exclude from route selection will hide this service plan from selection in any API environment. And what that means is that if you have Customer Connect, if you have the mobile app, and you have your geolocation settings turned on, meaning that a customer can log in into the services and enable delivery and have themselves be added to a service plan based on their address location and the zones you have created, then this particular service plan here, if you turn on exclude from route selection, will not participate in that logic. Basically, you're hiding this service plan from use from any customer that signs up online. It's really useful for when you're first trying to test Delivery Console and you just want to create a big zone, along the entire city, and you don't want your customers to sign in onto Customer Connect and say, hey, they have delivery now. So that's a great way to limit that availability while you're testing things. And then the last one is require image at delivery, which will simply force drivers to take a photograph of where they delivered the bag at the end of the delivery process. And you can turn this on here at the service plan level, which will affect every stop in the service plan, but you can also go in and do it at the stop specific level in case there's just one problematic customer that you need to account for. Once we have added our service plan, the next thing is to add a service window. Note that you cannot use a service plan without a service window. A service window is the defined time frame through which the service plan operates. One thing to remember is you can have multiple service windows within a single service plan, which effectively eliminates the need for you to have multiple routes just for different days. So a service window is basically, as you can see here, It's a way for you to determine not only the start and end time of the route, but also which days of the week. So basically default days will be the closest approximation to the equivalent of this setting in Spot. But we've gone ahead and improved upon the default days by adding which types of customers you want to service. We have customer pickup and delivery, locker pickup and delivery, and types of customer, either static or on demand. This is a bit of an older screenshot. Now you also have the ability to define if multi-customer stop pickup and delivery is also available within this window. So basically what this means is you can add multiple service windows to a service plan, let's say one that goes Mondays and Thursdays, only for customer pickup and delivery for, let's say, static customers. And then you have a Tuesday, a Friday window that is customer pickup and delivery, but only for on demand. Does that make sense? So you're basically adding several service windows based on which customers you want to service today. And that is a great layer of optimization that we hope everybody enjoys and makes use of. Of course, when you first start things out, it's totally fine just to toss in just one service window that goes every day of the week for all types of customer stops. And it's fine to just run it that way in the beginning while you get used to things. Just know that the options are here for you if you want to really get in depth with it. The last thing that we're going to be reviewing in terms of the features, at least the main features, is the zones. And this one is fairly easy to understand. This is where you'll come to create, modify, and delete any zones you have created. Basically, you're giving the zone a name, which is going to, we usually recommend that you name the zone the same name that you name the service plan, so it's easier to know which one belongs to which service plan. Sure, the color could help as well, but obviously when you have, a lot of zones added into Delivery Console, being able to identify which one goes to which service plan by name is going to make your life a lot easier in the long run. So just name it the same thing as your service plan. Once you have added the color, you have three toggles here, either show neighbors, show stores, or show stops. Basically, if you have show neighbors turned on, you'll be able to see any of the other zones you have already created in the system, so you can see how close you are in the drawing, to the other zones. That is useful in case you are concerned about leaving gaps between zones and which customers could fall under and not be assigned appropriately to a zone. It's also useful to not overlap because we don't want that to happen. Show stores will show the store locations in relation to the map, and show stops will show the customer stops that already exist on the service plan where this zone is attached to, which is useful in case you want to come back in and make modifications to the zone. That way you're able to see where everybody is located in the zone that you're editing, so you don't leave anybody out and accidentally when you're playing around with your zone. As far as what it looks like in action, this is it. Basically, each one of these dots you can click on and you can drag, you can push, and you can modify in any way, shape, or form. What's even greater is that any place that you click on along the lines here will create a new dot that you can then manipulate as well, giving you the ability to create some really intricate shapes and forms. And you can come back and edit them at any point in time. There's no restriction here. You create your first zone. You want to come back and edit it later. You can start right where you left off. All you would have to do is just click anywhere on the lines here and begin your drawing again, which is a great improvement from how Spot handles zones today. I want to cover very quickly as well the difference between a subtractive zone and a normal zone. Basically, a subtractive zone, as you can see here on this list, we've toggled on subtractive for this zone. Basically, it's this one down here at the bottom. And what it's doing is that when you enable subtractive, it's going to prevent any customer that lives in this zone to be added to this particular service plan. So these assignments are at the service plan level. And on this particular service plan, we're saying that the first zone on the list is active for the service plan, which is the bigger blue one. And then this other zone that we have also activated on the service plan, we have said that this one is a subtractive zone, meaning that it will not be considered for service if anybody falls within this zone. It's useful in case you want to target this particular area with a different service plan, maybe one that goes more days of the week. If this zone is so lucrative, you want to dedicate more days out of the week to go there, then you can definitely set this particular area as subtractive on this main service plan that maybe it's just going 2 days out of the week instead, and then create a separate service plan that goes every day of the week and then on that other service plan, you add this zone as active, but you do not turn on Subtractive on that service plan because you do want everybody who signs up online and requests service to be added to the second service plan. So it's basically a way for you to create donut shapes that let you place the customers within the center into different service plans. I'm gonna very briefly cover Lockers just because it is a part of Delivery Console per se. Lockers is the system that allows you to create locker banks and install them in locations outside of the store locations so that customers can visit them and place their garments. It's basically a transactional process, all right? There's no such a thing as a locker customer in terms of their accounts in Spot. You will not see their accounts turn into locker accounts as if they were route customers, right? We still only have counter and route customers in terms of how Spot handles their account. A locker drop-off and pickup is more of a transactional event because all we're doing is that we're adding a stop on a service plan where the physical locker banks are installed and we're having a driver going out there to do pickups and deliveries. The stop itself is the locker bank, not the customers that are using it. This is very important to understand so that you have a really well comprehension of how this all comes in together. But basically, once you have the locker banks configured in Delivery Console and added as a stop on your service plan, they will be presented in this fashion in RouteTrack. As you can see, it's very easy to understand the difference. This is normal customer stop, this is a locker bank stop, and there's a lock icon that lets you know that this is a locker bank stop, not a customer stop. As far as from the consumer side of things, this is a screenshot preview of what it looks like on their side if they're using the mobile app to request a locker, to place a locker drop-off. As you can see, they can make the selection of which one to visit based on the device's location that they're using. And that will also provide them with direction by direction instructions on how to get there. As far as Delivery Console goes, what you should know is that this is where you will be adding the actual locker banks. So adding a locker bank is as simple as going into the locker bank section of Delivery Console and then entering the name, usually the building of where the locker banks are located, entering a short description, which is usually a shortened version of the locker bank name, no spaces. These fields are entirely optional. The address is obviously required, and it needs to be also valid, a valid geolocation address, meaning that Telogis must be able to map this address before you can add it to a stop on a service plan. All right, that's very important to understand. If the address is not mapped, you will not be able to save this locker bank. And one of the reasons why I want to stress this is because there's been several instances in which we've had some companies, install the locker bank already on site, lease the term for the locker bank on that building, but they never came in to add the locker bank and check and see if the address validates against Telogis. And because it didn't, obviously we could not add the locker bank to the system, already making the process take longer than it should have because they had to process moving the locker bank to a different building that actually did map correctly. And one of the reasons why this is happening is because Telogis, which is now Verizon Connect, is a mapping component that we're just partnering with, right? We don't have any control over how accurate it is in geolocating certain addresses or what the time frame is for them to update their maps with newer buildings and things like that. So it's that you definitely want to make sure you do your due diligence if you want to try out lockers by adding the address first and seeing if it actually geolocates correctly. But as far as adding the locker banks themselves, you just need 3 pieces of data: the locker door number, the barcode that goes inside the door, that should be a QR barcode that should be unique across your entire franchise, and then a short description, which is usually just the number of the locker door. And again, this will all be covered more in detail during the lockers webinar. So if you're interested in lockers, I will definitely suggest you check out that YouTube video or join us next week on the Lockers 101 webinar. So a few dependencies that you guys should know about when it comes to Delivery Console. This one is mostly for locker stuff. The ones on the side here basically covers how to enable locker drop-off via Customer Connect. Basically, this turns on the ability for the customers to enter the locker drop-off menu via Customer Connect or the mobile app. And then the one above is to guarantee that on the store level of things, that whatever orders you bring back from the locker banks and you create them via Markin, that they actually carry the locker association through the cleaning process. So these two are needed for that. And then the last thing, to enable geolocation at all, in the first place, you need to enable these settings in Customer Connect itself. And again, Spot tech support can help with all of these, and we can cover, and these will be also covered during the later part of your onboarding process. So no worries if you don't know where these are right now. I want to talk also very quickly about Zuby. So like we said before, a little bit in the beginning, Zuby is a third-party GPS tracking and telemetry calculating software. At Spot, we have partnered with Zuby to include this information within the live view section of Delivery Console. This will bring this slew of Zuby's great features to one centralized hub from where the information can be accessed. For onboarding with Zuby is super simple and straightforward, with very minimal settings required from the Spot side of things. If you're interested in Zuby, reach out to our sales team. They'll be able to provide you with what the path ahead will look like. But I do definitely want to show you what that looks like in action. So this is live view, right? We already covered that before, but basically live view is the infographics of the route. We see here the zone that we're servicing on this particular service plan that we have selected, all the stops inside, which stops we have visited, which ones we're missing, and then the driver location on the map itself. So if we were to click on the truck driver icon, it's going to present us with this information. So out of the box, Delivery Console will show you these two columns that you can see here on the left hand side, the truck details, route information, and the customer/stops. Very useful information to know, how well we're doing on this route. But if you have Zuby activated on your Delivery Console, then you will also get this additional information on the right-hand side. Hard brakes, rapid acceleration, minor speeding, major speeding, top speed, and truck details. In addition to that, if you click on delivery details here at the bottom, if you have Zuby integrated, you will be able to also do a reconciliation between what route the driver actually took versus the planned route that was suggested by the optimized manifest. So these dots here are all the times that Zuby's device in the van or truck has pinged us saying, here's the driver location. And if we turn on planned route, it's going to superimpose this blue line here, which is the optimized manifest suggested route. So now you'll be able to determine if the driver has actually followed the suggested optimized route that the manifest provided. A great tool to bring the control of the operation back to you, like we said in the beginning. All right, and then the last thing, I definitely want to also just very quickly mention Route For Me one more time, because at this point we understand now that it will grant you some new features to use with Delivery Console, including the number of vehicles and the route and time. Again, if you want to sign up for Route For Me, you can reach out to our sales team to get started. But I do want to cover one last feature that Route For Me has that's a great benefit to anybody running the route operations. Basically, what we've been asked of a lot through the years is for the ability to modify an optimized manifest after it's been created. Mostly because, in certain scenarios, optimized components are not perfect, right? They cannot account for construction, they cannot account for street closures. So there's changes that need to be made at the stop level of which ones go where based on these factors that mapping components cannot account for. So Route For Me gives you the ability to go into your Route For Me account with your credentials that are set up when you first sign up for Route For Me, and then you're able to modify any optimized manifest that Delivery Console has generated after it's been created. So you can make changes here, move stops around however you so desire, and once you're done, those changes are saved, and then you can load that manifest into RouteTrack, and will acknowledge all the changes you made on your Route For Me account. So it definitely provides a great amount of features and customization options for you if you're interested in enhancing your route operation. And that's about it, guys. The only other thing I definitely want to mention is that please visit our online help website. If you already have visited before, then you know that that is just help.spotpos.com, and it is being updated every week with new information from our documentation team. It contains a great amount of resources, not only for Delivery Console, but also for lockers, for Route Track, for Customer Connect, for notifications, for coupons. Anything in Spot really will be covered in here. So please go ahead and check it out. Give it a look. Let us know if you like it. Let us know what we should change about it. And if there's articles that you also would like to see, then you can definitely leave feedback here to tell us which articles are important to you. I just want to thank everybody so much for coming in today. We're pretty much out of time, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut it right here. If you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to our tech support team, and have yourself a great day. All right, guys, have a good one. Bye-bye.